Can we just take a minute to acknowledge that we are in a very fortunate time to be Eagles fans? Because, I don't know if you remember this or not. This Eagles team wasn't exactly great at getting to a Super Bowl. They got there with Jaws. And it took a long time until Donovan McNabb and his worm burner tendencies got there, due in large part to a strong addition of Terrell Owens to the regular season until he broke his leg against the Cowboys, came back in the Super Bowl, put up one hell of a performance, and Donovan threw up in the huddle, and we know how that one went. And then it took a long time to get back, but you had Super Bowl 52, where you get a Nick Foles incredible run through the postseason after Carson Wentz blows out his knee against the Rams in the regular season. You get that big win. Then 2 years ago, in Super Bowl 57, what happens, friends? Jalen Hurts and these Philadelphia Eagles, they go blow for blow with a Kansas City Chiefs team that, by virtue of winning that one, started the first of a potential three-peat. And now they're back, and they're better than ever. And I'm pretty sure that even the most hesitant Eagles fan, and I'm sure that there are many of them still, the most hesitant Eagles fan at this point still has to feel better about this team than the one from 2 years ago. Vastly different roster. We've gotten into it. We'll continue to get into it. But a younger defense, a more dynamic defense, a more polished defensive coordinator. The number one defense, really, in the NFL. An offensive coordinator that I think is on par with Steichen. I think it's probably pretty fair to say. Good offensive coordinator who may or may not be preparing his staff and is going to go take over a disaster of a Saints team that is now embroiled in a big old scandal. If I were Kellen Moore, I'd be running the other way and waiting until next year, but I've been pretty consistent about that messaging. But you have one hell of a team. And the best part about it is the guys seem loose. Because as I mentioned on Monday's show, you are now going into this Super Bowl with a team that doesn't find itself full of guys who don't know what to expect from the chaos leading up to the big game. They know what to do with Media Day. They know about all of the other extracurriculars and the festivities, and they've already felt the brightest lights in the world shining down on them in the biggest stage. They seem to be enjoying the moment, which we're going to get. You know what? Screw it. I'm actually going to take you there first before I go out to the comments, because there's a really cool video that was going around, and Jay Glazer put this out on Twitter. But, you just want to see what it looks like. You want to see these guys having fun. And listen, there are certainly people who are absolute dopes who I'm sure are going to be upset somehow by this video. But, I live in a world where I want these guys to be loose. I want them to prepare, and they clearly are going to prepare because they're professional athletes, and this is, the pinnacle of the sport. But Jay Glazer put this out, and this is from the media festivities. This is Fox getting all of their videos for cutting away at commercials. But there you have Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata on the stage. You got the smoke. They're jamming out, having a good time. That's the kind of thing you should look for. If you're an Eagles fan right now and you're looking for something to just settle the nerves a little bit, your team right now looks about as relaxed as can be. And it's not because they're screwing around. It's not because they're not taking it seriously. It's because they know what to expect. And again, it is massive. Absolutely massive. Jamie Rollo says, can Sunday get here already? I feel like my brain says we win the game, but Mahomes. Guys, I have to be honest with you. I'm not Mahomes is great. And I would always preach, do not bet against Mahomes. The only team that I thought in the AFC that could give Kansas City a legitimate run for their money was Baltimore, because I thought between Lamar Jackson and certainly Derrick Henry, that was going to pose something that Kansas City's not used to, that kind of a dominant running back. And I really wanted to see how that would test Kansas City's defensive line. We didn't get to see that, and then they played Buffalo, and I said Buffalo was never had a chance, and they didn't. Now, there is something to be said for the winning DNA of a quarterback and a guy who's now led Kansas City to 2 consecutive Super Bowl wins, has led them back to yet another Super Bowl chance at the unprecedented first in history in the Super Bowl era three-peat. Totally get it. Understand it. I'm not worried. It's the least concerned I have been about an Eagles team going into a Super Bowl. Whatever happens on Sunday, I will take. Like, whatever happens on Sunday, I see no scenario in which the Eagles get blown out. None. The Eagles getting blown out's not on the table. Kansas City getting blown out, not a high probability, but I guess there's a chance. I don't think it's going to be like a field goal is the difference in the game. I don't think a Jake Elliott missed field goal is going to be the story of the game. I think the Eagles win by double digits. I have been saying that since the conference championship round ended, and I'm going to stick to it. Like right now, my gut says 38-27 is where I'm at right now. It's going to take something for me to really come off that number. I think this Eagles offense is going to really be able to gut Kansas City. And despite how great Mahomes is, this defense has been opportunistic. And one thing that we know about Mahomes, that dude is really smart. He's very efficient, but there are ways to force turnovers. And if he starts trying to throw into tight windows, this defense has started to show a real ability to turn the ball over, to give Jalen Hurts and this offense more possessions. And ultimately, this Eagles offense can eat up the clock because they have the best running attack in the National Football League. And so, that is part of why I'm looking forward to Sunday. There's honestly part of me that would be surprised if the Eagles don't win. I don't go into this feeling like Super Bowl 52 where it's like, oh shit, you have to try to take on Brady and Belichick again with a backup quarterback. I don't feel like 2 years ago where I didn't think that Eagles team was better than the Chiefs. I did not. I was hopeful, but I wasn't sure. And I also figured that both coordinators had a foot out the door to Indy and to Arizona. I don't feel the same way this year. I really don't. And if Kellen Moore leaves, he leaves. I think it'd be really stupid, but if he leaves, he leaves. But I'm also not worried about Kellen Moore because he's not doing the next interview with the Saints before the Super Bowl. The next interview comes after the Super Bowl. Great. I actually view that as a very big positive. It almost, like, let's just take a second here, okay? Part of what really screwed the Eagles 2 years ago is knowing that Steichen and Gannon were highly coveted assistant coaches. And I believe by the time the Eagles kicked off against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 57, we knew Steichen was going to Indy, and we were pretty sure that Gannon had essentially like agreed to terms with the Cardinals. I think. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But we knew that those guys were highly sought after. The Gannon thing was like very much we know he's out of here, right? But if we go and we just like take a step back and we remember what that felt like, Kellen Moore to me is doing not selfless is a little bit iffy, but more waiting until after the Super Bowl to take that next interview almost tells me that the Eagles organization said, listen, if you really want to go after that job, totally fine. You want to do the virtual interview? Cool. You want to like entertain it? Awesome. We need you to focus on the Super Bowl. You want to like go meet with them again or come back or whatever after? Great. But we got burned once before. Can't happen again. Do I know that? No. But I think this organization's smart enough to know that like there was probably a significant impact 2 years ago. Now, if the Eagles offense struggles this week, am I going to say it was because Kellen Moore was flirting with the Saints? No. I'm not. Because I don't think that's what's happening. Like if the Eagles offense somehow struggles, I think there are going to be a lot of other things at play. And I'd probably have to give Steve Spagnuolo a lot of credit.